Hello and welcome to lesson 3 of the preliminary tutor book. Now this lesson is a very detailed lesson and it covers quite a few important aspects of piano playing. So I'll just go through the teaching aims with you so you're aware of what you are going to learn. First of all, we're going to introduce the A note in the right hand. Then we're going to introduce the PP dynamic and the FF dynamic. We're also going to introduce the repeat mark, and we're going to show you how to read music the easy way. The sharp sign is going to come in, as is tones and semitones. And finally, we're going to learn for the first time the G major scale. So first of all, we're going to have a look at the A note here, and the A note is shown on the stave on the second space up. You still play the A note with the fifth finger in this piece. So in Michael Wrote the Boat Ashore, the piece contains the new A note. So what you actually do, you learn a new hand position here. Normally, you would play your hand and put your notes like this. But what the book is suggesting is that you move up to what's called stretchy C position and you miss out the D note. So it means your first finger is on the C and your second finger is on the E. So I'll play the right hand now to show you what I mean. You can see my little finger now is on the A note. Then when you get to here, you'll notice there are finger numbers at the top, so you move your hand back down to normal C position. Then when you've mastered that skill, you then add the left hand to it, like this. Now, one of the major problems I find in an exam situation is that when you have a change of hand position, like you have in this piece, a lot of pupils will tend to leave a little gap on the changes. Now, to get the higher marks in the exam, it's a good idea to practice so you don't leave those gaps in between, and that will master and get you a top mark in the examination. So turning the page, we now go on to a piece called Sami Stagato. So we go back again to playing staccato notes, as you can see, but this time you've got two new dynamics in. You've got the double P sign, which stands for pianissimo, which means very quiet. Then you've got the double F sign, which stands for fortissimo, which is very loud. So double P, very quiet at the beginning, double F at the end, very loud. So you can have a practice of trying the dynamics yourself, just to try and get the feel of your piano, and so you can hear the difference between a P and a double P. Then try and put them in Sami Stagato, like this. The next piece is a repeat of a piece you played earlier on, which is upbeat rock and roll together. But there's only one major difference in this piece, and that is it has the little dots at the end. So when you see the dots at the end of a piece like that, it's called a repeat sign, which means you play the song again from the start, like this. So turning the page, we move on to learning for the first time about the sharp sign. So the sharp sign shows you that you play a sharp. Now the sharp sign is clearly centred in this case as an F sharp on the top line of the stave. And so the square box of the sharp should be written. So you have a little writing task where you put the sharps on the top line of the stave. So when a sharp sign is placed before a note, as in the example here, it means you play the key immediately to its right. This key may be white or it might be black. By doing this, you are playing what's called a semitone. So here's an example of a semitone in the book. So you have an F sharp, so you play the key immediately to the right of the F, and if you go up to the G, that forms what's called a semitone. Now the opposite of semitone is tone. So you play a tone when there is one note between the two notes that you played. So C to D, for example, is tone because you've got this note in between. So the next page is a writing task, and you'll have a selection of notes here that you need to work out. Now what I suggest to my pupils is they work out what the notes are first and then write what they are underneath. So the example that's shown on example 1, you have a D note and then you have an E note. So if you play those on the piano, you'll see that they are tone because you have that note in between. See? So you do that with all the other examples that are on the page, fill in the answers and work out. So if it's a tone, you write tone in the box. If it's a semitone, you write semitone in the box. So music's written in keys, and we learned in the First Steps tutor book the key of C, and that's why we learned the scale of C major. Now we're adding another key for the preliminary tutor book, and the key that we're adding is the key of G major. And so obviously we need to practice and play the scale of G major to go with this. Now this is why we've introduced the sharp sign, because your G major and the key of G major and the scale of G major always has an F sharp in the key signature. So you have the opportunity first of all of practicing writing the key signature of G major in the book. Then you have the opportunity to try and play the scale of G major. Now you've got to remember when you play this scale that you need to put the F sharp in the scale, like this. Then you've got your left hand in the same way. And then you have a bit of revision playing the C major scale one more time. And that completes this chapter of the examination and the tutor book.